So when we were last looking at our track bike project, we had the chief technician from Geelink Kawasaki's Ben Wilson's race team, David, to come down and we'll just give it a bit of a once over. But now it's time to get things a little bit more serious as we look at changing one of the biggest things you can change on a bike that will affect its performance on track, and that is the suspension. Now, the problem being with suspension is that it can get quite technical, and I'm a bit stupid. So luckily we brought in a man who knows a little bit more about it. This is Adam Griffin. And Adam is I believe, a sports scientist, as referred to in the world of racing, and obviously our track coach, ex-California Superbike School instructor, and a man who knows quite a lot about suspension. Tell me about the basics. Come on, what does suspension do?
Well, in its most basic form, suspension there, we're looking to give us a nice ride, a comfortable ride.
Well, and on a road bike, for instance, the suspension, as you say, is much more to do with comfort, isn't it? It's a case of absorbing the bumps and not chucking you all over the shop.
That's exactly it. You know, on any given road, we've got bumps and hollows that we want the tyre to follow. So the suspension allows the bike to do that, gives us comfort, but ultimately also gives us good traction, good levels of traction, keeping the tyre in contact with the tarmac as much as you can.
Now, obviously, we've got the ZX6 through there. It is a road bike that we're turning into a track bike. What are the key differences in suspension when you want to go onto the track? I suppose it becomes less about absorbing the bumps, more about, as you say, keeping the back tyre in contact with the ground.
That's right, and that's for, again, for control, but optimising traction ultimately. You know, when you go to the circuit, you're obviously travelling faster, which means that you're putting more forces through the bike. So we need to support that and control those movements as well.
We're trying to do this as in we're just taking an everyday road bike and turning it into a track weapon without spending too much money. So what are our options?
That's right. You can look at the internals of the suspension, so looking at the different springs, upgraded springs, and also the valving within the suspension as well, to make that again more refined, so you've got more adjustability from the stock suspension to an aftermarket internals, which we can look at.
Okay, cool. Okay, well, we've come to the right place today. We've come to Case Performance. Now, these guys have been looking after suspension since 1978. They've been doing it in the paddock with Olin's since 1983. It's a family-run business, and it really is. What these guys don't know about suspension isn't to be known. And they have very kindly agreed to kind of go through the bike and, as you say, prepare it for track, redo the internals, and make it look really, really sexy, which is very nice of them. But they've got a bit of a weird accent. They talk like you do, and I don't understand that.
Accent?
Yeah, it's something strange. I don't know, but we can probably go check that they're not messing it all up. Is that right?
Well, I'll probably come with you and interpret.
Okay, cool, brilliant.
I'm Nick White, one of the directors and one of the chief suspension technicians here at Case Suspension Services. Been in business since 1978, started off in the off-road industry, which is a real good grounding for suspension. You can make an off-road bike, you can pretty much make anything handle. 1983 we started with Olin's, and we're still with the brand today, and it's one of our best brands and something we're very proud to be associated with. Today we're looking to work with the standard suspension units on the bike. Obviously not everybody can afford the all-expensive suspension package. I mean, we'd gladly sell anybody that suspension package, but not everybody who walks through our door can justify that. First and foremost, we strip the units. We start with the shock absorber. We strip the unit, basically take the shaft assembly out, make sure everything's clean, make sure everything's okay. Also, on a standard unit, which is vitally important, is to make sure everything's working. Otherwise, there's no point spending the money on that shock absorber. What we've done is tailored the setting to more of a track setting by beefing up the shimming, giving a larger base shim, so that this basically improves damping force throughout the range. And then it's a case of putting the units back together again, making sure everything's clean and tidy. You'll see that we vacuum fill the shock absorber to make sure that there's no air in the oil. Again, this is vitally important. We moved on to the forks, where again the oil had seen better days. I'd like to give you credit for that, but you've told me you've not ridden it. Your bike actually had 2 leaking fork seals. Again, vital to make sure everything's working as it should be. Number 1, it doesn't handle as it should do if it is leaking. Number 2, you've obviously got the safety issue of hydraulic fluid going on your disc. We then rebuilt the units. We modified the damping force inside the cartridge. It was a generic 20mm cartridge, so a compression and rebound piston. We changed the configuration of the shimming, again suited it to track. And then as we rebuilt, we installed stronger 9.5 linear springs and then re-oiled it accordingly to the correct level, and then built it back together. And then we came in, put it back in the bike, sat you on it, realised how heavy you were and that we're going to have to modify it, but no. And then set it up. See how many pies you've been eating while you've been busy?
Not at all, mate, not at all. Obviously.
And I would suggest that is a really good starting point, to be honest. It's the best possible starting point. And then what we're looking for the bike basically to react evenly as we push down front and rear.
Yeah.
We want everything to react and come back as best as possible. The bike's nice and balanced, and I'm happy for it to go out now.
See, I told you it was Manchester, look, it's chucking it down. Anyway, the bike's loaded up, we're ready to head back to London. I want to say a very big thank you to everyone here at K's Performance who worked on our bike today. It's been an incredibly eye-opening day, and I'm blown away by the fact you don't have to go and spend £3 on a fully tricked out Olin suspension setup to get massive difference from your bike. This cost us today £650 parts and labour to get all our suspension reconditioned and to get the guys to set the bike up properly. I can't wait to go and test it on track now, and if you want to find out more about these guys, it's simple. Go to ks-olins.co.uk.